My name's Angelo, and welcome to We Want Picks. This is the only channel dedicated to UFC picks and DraftKings lineups run by professional fighters and MMA insiders. Every week, I join Nick Newell, professional fighter, professional model, and ESPN top 10 guest, along with Dan Kramer, UFC fighter, Bellator fighter, Ultimate Fighter alumni, and Jacob Lyons, a skinny kid from Indiana. And we break down every single fight, the betting odds, the DraftKings picks, and we set you up for success. Tonight, we're breaking down Fight Night Rosenstruck versus Gane. Next up at UFC Fight Night Rosenstruck versus Gane, we have Alex Bruce Leroy Caceres versus Kevin Croom. I open every single one of these videos with, this is the only show dedicated to UFC fight picks and DraftKings lineups run by professional fighters and MMA insiders. This week, I have reached out to Matt Bessette. Matt Bessette is a fighter. He's been in the UFC. He's been in Bellator. He's been everywhere and has had success everywhere. He fought Kevin Croom. He beat Kevin Croom. And Nick and I reached out to him and said, hey, Matt, can you do us a favor? Break down this fight. Give us a little bit of insight and let us know who you think will win. So let's look at Matt's pick, and then we'll move on to ours right after.
What's up, everyone? Matt Bessette here. Just checking in. I was given the task by my friends Angelo Bodetti and Nick Newell to predict the Alex Caceres versus Kevin Croom fight coming up here for the UFC. It's not an easy one. On paper, it looks like Alex would be the favorite. If you're looking at record alone, Alex doesn't have the most impressive record, but he's been in the UFC for a long time. He's fought some lower rung guys, he's the middle tier guys, and he's fought the highest of the high guys. And Kron Gracie, one of the best jiu-jitsu players of all time, and Uriah Faber, always a high level fighter at 35 and 45 in the WC and UFC. So Croom's going to get tested. Croom's going to get tested as soon as the fight starts, and I think he's up for that. He's put a lot of time in with his striking and James Krause. He's changed his style up completely, and I think that's going to be his key to victory. If he stays in the pocket and doesn't move his feet and he's stuck in the mud, I believe that Alex is going to make him pay for that. That being said, I think that the veteran in Kevin, the amount of time that he's put in, and the fact that this is not his first fight in the UFC anymore, he's not going to have any kind of jitters. He's going to go out there and do his thing, and I think it's going to be a very, very close fight. That being said, Alex has fought some of the best, and that I don't believe jitters are going to play a role in his game. So it just depends on which Kevin Croom shows up, I believe. This new Kevin Croom is one to really pay attention to. I'm excited to see what he has added to his game and what has evolved. I am going to predict with my heart. I'm going to say that Croom is going to win by first round TKO. If that doesn't happen, the longer the fight goes, the more it favors Alex. But if I'm putting a few bucks down, I gotta give it to Kevin Croom. Good luck, bud.
All right, so Matt Bessette going with Kevin Croom. Check out Matt Bessette on social media at @Mangler_MMA. Firsthand knowledge there. So he was in there with Croom. He stopped Croom, but Matt has a ton of experience. He's been around the block, but he felt that firsthand, and he feels that if Kevin Croom can move around, keep his feet moving, and sort of dictate that pace, not stay at the end of Bruce Leroy's length, he can win this fight and potentially stop Bruce Leroy. So, Nick, I'm going to pass it off to you. You're also a good personal friend of Matt Bessette's. What'd you think of that breakdown? Do you agree? Do you disagree? How do you see this fight going?
I think that Matt has some good personal insight. Matt gets very friendly with the people he fights. He's an all-around nice guy, very caring person, like peace, love, martial arts type guy. When he fought Kevin Croom, I remember I was there. Matt beat the brakes off him, and Kevin was on a little doing kind of well up until that point. Beat some good people, but Matt really really beat him pretty good, and he's since switched some things up. I think he started training with James Krause, who's done an amazing job coaching, one of my favorite coaches to watch and follow. And someone that I actually ask business advice from sometimes because he does so well. But he beat Roosevelt Roberts. Roosevelt Roberts was on a hot streak, beat a lot of really good people, looked great. Kind of got caught in a tricky armbar by Jim Miller, but was a big favorite. And Croom threw that overhand, dropped him, and choked him out in like 30 seconds. He made it look easy, and he was going up a weight class. The hard-hitting hillbilly was his nickname. I don't know if he changed her yet, but I'm like, man, I really like this guy, the hard-hitting hillbilly, Kevin Croom. And he is hard-hitting. He's got power. He's got a lot more power than Caceres has. Caceres is more a volume puncher. Doesn't really put his hips behind his punches. Doesn't really put anything on him. Just kind of wears you down, kind of Diaz style. I've trained with Caceres before, and not extensively, just like one round. And he's really tricky. He's not the best wrestler. But I don't think Croom is either. But Caceres can move around really well. He's quick on his feet. He bounces around, and he can scramble with the best of them. He's been in there with the best fighters in the world. He's won some. He's lost some. But if I had a bet on this fight, I would bet Caceres. I think he's more pinpoint. I think if it gets into a scramble or they engage in a grappling, he could exchange. He could get the submission. Croom's been submitted before. He's also very good on the ground, but Caceres is very crafty. I'm going to go with Caceres, and I'm putting him in my lineup. Give me $100. I'm putting it on Caceres all day.
Yeah, it's definitely. I actually think this is going to be the most fun fight of the entire night. I think Croom is just ready, willing, and able to fight. And he'll fight anybody, anywhere, anytime, and he's just gonna, fight. And I think that's a ton of fun. I've never seen Caceres. Jacob spelled this wrong. What a shock that is, right? Caceres is in a similar boat. He's always down to fight. He's pretty entertaining in most fights. It's just tricky. He's another one of those guys. I honestly think he's one of the most underperforming guys in the last 15 years or so. He's got, solid ability. He's been around for a while now. He's an actual vet at this point, and he's basically 500. And that's not even because of his technical abilities. He's pretty solid everywhere. He just doesn't show up half the time. And I don't know why. He's had an interesting career. Lately, he's looked pretty good. I personally am actually going to go with Kevin Croom in this fight. I think at the end of the day, it's going to come down to sort of mental preparedness. And I just think Kevin is the more solid fighter, if you will. I think, Bruce Leroy, Alex Caceres, I think he's the better fighter. I think he's the more well-rounded fighter. I just think Kevin Croom shows up, knows what he's supposed to do, and tries to do that every single time, where Caceres, he doesn't, right? Sometimes he does, sometimes he doesn't. He's very inconsistent for somebody who's been around as long as he has. So I'm basically putting it on sort of mental fortitude here, and I just think Kevin Croom has it a little more together to get this done. So I'll go to you, Jacob. What are your thoughts here? You misspelled his last name, but are you going with Alex Caceres or Kevin Croom in this fight?
You want to get him, Jacob, or you want me to? Angelo, didn't he give it to you 7 hours ahead of time to proofread?
I don't have enough time to read every word.
I saw the text messages. I was looking back and forth.
Unbelievable. Go ahead, Jacob. Why don't you give us your breakdown and your apology for the spelling error?
I don't even care about you coming after me for the spelling stuff, but I'm getting sick and tired of you guys stealing my nickname swag. Nick's mentioning he's the hard-hitting hillbilly. That's my thing. I go for guys for nicknames, and that's the only reason I went for Kevin Croom in this fight. Alex Caceres is a very good fighter. To me, he has a lot of fun in the octagon. I think he has too much fun in the octagon. He does some wild stuff sometimes. I think it's going to get in some trouble here. If you're paying $8,800 for a 17-12 fighter, more power to you. That's not me. $7,400, Kevin Croom, I think is great value. He's not in my lineup, but if I had $100, I'm taking that 175, the hard-hitting hillbilly. I don't think you can go wrong with Kevin Croom in this.
Yeah, and good point. Sorry, I guess I didn't make my I said I think Kevin wins. But yeah, neither one are in my lineup because I don't trust them to bet the house on him. But at plus 175, those are fantastic odds. You can almost double your money on what I think is a pick'em fight. I think this should be a pick'em. I don't think
I think
reflective.
Yeah, and I think he was I think he took his UFC debut on short notice, was a huge underdog, and finished it in the first round. So he's known to be he's very comfortable in the underdog role.
Yeah. So Dan, why don't you go ahead and give us your thoughts? So we'll have 5 people.
First of all, I just want to know, if Matt Bessette knows him, can you ask him to talk to somebody to get him to change his UFC stock profile picture change? Because that just
That's a great
not
picture.
Look like a hard hitting hillbilly. It looks like
that looked exactly like a hard hitting hillbilly.
It looks like the guy who's like at the 8th grade dance without a date, kind of in the side of the picture, trying to fit
this
in
is
with
what that
everyone
looks
else.
like.
Wow. That's a good point too, Jacob.
He looked like he's flexing too hard. Like Mazzo's picture looked like she was like flexing way too hard. I wanted to say that, but he's just trying to look ripped. And
He's got a weird look in that picture. I don't know what it is. Every time I see that picture, it just throws me off. Anyways, back to fighting. I think Kevin Croom is very live in this for $7,400. I think he's a great value. I love the fact that he's now training with James Krause and taking that very seriously. He looked obviously very confident and good in his last fight with a quick win against a very, very tough fighter. So he definitely has good subs, right? He got that choke in the first round. His wrestling looked decent. He had really good entry, but just didn't really finish that great. He had some good knees in the clinch. He was very busy. So I think he's probably improving at a fast rate, and I think he's very game. Caceres, same thing. I mean, he's very good, very skilled. He's fought everybody. Lately, he's looked better than usual, but to Angelo's point earlier, there's fights where he just kind of shows up and it's like a sparring session for him almost. So I think he's the more skilled fighter, but I think Croom is very tough and will compete well in this fight. I think he's a live dog. I'm going to put him in my lineup for the $7,400. I think either way, even at a loss, he will get some points. So he's in my lineup. I'm definitely betting on him. $100 at plus 175 if I had $100 to bet. And yeah, Kevin Croom, just get that picture changed and we'll be good.
Yeah, either way, this is going to be a ton of fun. I do anticipate an exciting fight. Both of these guys enjoy fighting, like to fight, and they should have a good time fighting each other. Before you go, check out the description below. In there, we have links to our Facebook, our Twitter, our Instagram, and more importantly, to our DraftKings League. Check out the league, join the league, participate in the contests, and as we get going and as you start winning, we're going to start handing out gift cards and participating and doing things like that. So check those out. Every week, there are drops on every fight card. So make sure you check out this channel and our social media on Saturday before the fights start so that you have our most updated lineups and picks.